American homeowners in their 50s and 60s spending $180 every June on annuals dead by July. This is the calculation most of you have never sat down and actually made. 18 perennials, each under $14 planted once this June, delivering documented hummingbird and butterfly visits every single morning for the next 20 years. These are the plants serious growers kept to themselves and their closest neighbors since before supermarkets existed. And number 13 on this list is the reason I made this video. Before plant number 1, drop your state right now because your USDA zone completely changes. Which of these performs best for you? Find yours and pay attention. Do not skip this. Plant number 1, Agastache Sunset Hyssop. While your neighbors replace $180 in annuals every June, this $10 plant is still feeding hummingbirds in October. Its sunset orange-pink flower spikes carry a color frequency that triggers hummingbird response from longer distances than any violet or blue bloom on this list. Documented by High Country Gardens as one of the top southwestern native hummingbird attractors in American cultivation, zones 5 through 9 full sun-sharp drainage done. That orange-pink frequency sits at the warm end of the hummingbird visible spectrum. Research from native plant cultivation confirms it draws territorial responses from distances violet, blue blooms never reach. This $10 plant blooms continuously from June through October, 5 full months of documented daily hummingbird feeding on a single one-time purchase. Most American growers plant Agastache in clay border soil because it looks right. Clay holds moisture at the crown and the roots rot before the first winter. That mistake costs $10 in one full growing season. And most growers never connect the failure to the soil. Sharp drainage is the only condition this plant demands. Give it that and it returns every June without a single dollar more spent. Plant 2 on this list delivers something completely different, a pale purple native that USDA documents as one of the original prairie species American homesteads grew before the annual industry existed. And that story, the one about the Ohio homeowner who calculated exactly what 11 years of annuals actually cost, that is coming. And somewhere in this video is the story of an Ohio homeowner who calculated 11 years of annual spending, replaced the entire border for $195 one time. Keep watching. Plant number 2, Echinacea pallida pale purple coneflower. This is not the magenta coneflower every garden center sells. This is the original USDA documented native prairie species. American homesteads grew for generations before the hybrid industry replaced it with something showier and far less useful to wildlife. Its pale drooping rays and tall central cone draw butterflies and specialist native bees that never touch the commercial hybrids. Zones 3 through 8. Full sun. Average to dry soil. Done. The USDA PLANTS Database confirms Echinacea pallida as a documented native prairie species. The specialist native bees it attracts are cavity nesters that commercial hybrid coneflowers simply do not support. This $8 plant self-seeds into a permanent expanding colony by year 3, one purchase compounding into dozens without a single additional dollar spent. Most American growers deadhead it immediately after bloom because they want a tidy border. Removing the seed heads eliminates the goldfinch feeding that runs from September through January. That decision costs nothing to make and destroys 4 months of documented wildlife return every single year. Leave every seed head standing through January, and this $8 plant feeds goldfinches 4 months after every other flower in your border is gone. Plant 3 delivers something entirely different, a flame-colored perennial that puts your June border into a completely different visual category and feeds hummingbirds for one full season, while Liatris pike nasturtia puts your yard on a monarch migration map permanently. Plant number 3, Helenium mariachi sombrero. Every annual in your June border fades and dies while this flame, orange perennial builds a larger clump and feeds hummingbirds harder every single season it returns. The banded orange, red ray petals, and prominent central cone put it in a visual category no annual can touch by midsummer, and it blooms from June straight through the first frost, without deadheading, staking, or a single additional dollar. Zones 3 through 8. Full sun, average moisture. Helenium autumnale produces a biochemical nectar profile that draws hummingbirds and specialist native bees simultaneously. A dual wildlife response. No annual in the same price range replicates. This $10 plant divides every 3 years into permanent expanding clumps. One purchase in June, compounding into 6 plants by year 9 at zero additional cost. Most American growers cut helenium to the ground in late autumn, believing it needs a hard reset that removes the crown protection layer and exposes the root zone to freeze damage in zones 3 through 5. That single autumn mistake costs one full growing season and resets a plant that was already building permanent compounding value. Leave the crown intact through winter, and this $10 plant returns flame orange every June for the next 2 decades without a dollar more spent. Plant 4 operates on a completely different level. Helenium feeds hummingbirds for one season, but Liatris pycnostatya is a documented monarch migration fuel stop on the Central Flyway that puts your yard permanently on a continental wildlife. Plant number 4. Liatris pycnostatya, prairie blazing star. This is not a garden ornament. This is a confirmed monarch migration fuel stop on the Central Flyway, documented by the USDA PLANTS Database as one of the original native prairie species that powered continental butterfly migration before the annual industry paved it over. A single $8 corm planted this June joins a network of documented refueling stations that monarchs navigate by. Your yard becomes part of that map permanently. Zones 3 through 9. Full sun, average to dry soil. The USDA PLANTS Database confirms Liatris pycnostatya as a documented Central Flyway monarch corridor plant. One of the original prairie species ancestral American homesteads grew generations before garden centers replaced it with impatiens. This $8 corm self seeds into a permanent expanding colony by year 2. 1 June purchase, compounding into a documented migration fuel station that grows larger every season. Most American growers plant Liatris in heavy wet border soil because the corm looks like it needs moisture. Wet heavy soil causes corm rot before the first bloom ever opens. That mistake costs one full season and the monarch traffic that would have followed every August without it. Let it self-seed, and this $8 corm builds a monarch fuel station that expands every season without another dollar spent. Plant 5 works the ground level completely differently. A giant native coneflower that goldfinches strip clean every winter and hummingbirds work every morning from June through September. Drop your state in the comments right now. Your USDA zone completely changes which of these delivers the strongest monarch and hummingbird return for you. Plant number 5. Rudbeckia maxima giant coneflower. This is not the black-eyed Susan every garden center sells. This is a 6-foot native giant with blue-green glaucous leaves, oversized golden blooms, and elongated dark cones that goldfinches return to strip clean every single winter for decades. Its scale and architectural presence put it in a completely different category from every annual in your June border, and hummingbirds work the blooms every morning from June through September. Zones 4 through 9, full sun, average moisture. Rudbeckia maxima produces elongated seed cones that persist through January. The exact architecture goldfinches require for sustained winter feeding that smaller coneflower varieties simply cannot provide. This $10 plant self seeds reliably into a permanent expanding colony. 1 June purchase, building a 6-foot golden stand that widens every season at zero additional cost. Most American growers cut Rudbeckia maxima to the ground in October, believing a clean border is a healthy border. Removing every seed cone eliminates 4 months of documented goldfinch feeding in a single afternoon. That one autumn decision destroys the entire winter wildlife return. This plant was already set to deliver without another dollar spent. Leave every cone standing through January, and this $10 plant feeds a goldfinch flock all winter while your neighbors rake bare ground. Plant 6 works a completely different wildlife response. Vernonia fasciculata prairie ironweed is the only purple perennial on this list that documented monarch butterflies specifically reroute their migration flight paths to reach a wildlife trigger no golden coneflower produces. Plant number 6. Vernonia fasciculata prairie ironweed. While every purple annual in your June border fades by August, this $8 native produces the most intensely saturated magenta, purple bloom of any perennial on this entire list, and USDA NRCS documents it as a confirmed monarch and swallowtail attractor that draws documented rerouting behavior during peak migration. Its flat-topped flower clusters land monarchs with full wingspan open, a feeding platform no tubular or drooping bloom replicates. Zones 3 through 8, full sun, average to moist soil. USDA NRCS confirms Vernonia fasciculata as a documented monarch and swallowtail attractor. The flat-topped panicle architecture is the specific landing geometry that allows full monarch wingspan to open during feeding. Something tubular or cone-shaped blooms physically prevent. This $8 plant seeds into a permanent expanding colony by year 2, one purchase building a magenta, purple migration station that widens every season without cost. Most American growers pull Vernonia in late summer, believing the coarse stem and leaf texture signals a weed, removing a plant already set to deliver peak monarch traffic within 2 weeks. That identification mistake costs one full migration season and every monarch visit that would have followed for the next 20 years. Let it self-seed, and this $8 plant builds a documented monarch landing station that expands permanently without another dollar spent. Plant 7 delivers the largest individual butterfly landing platform of any perennial on this entire list. And we have not even reached number 13 yet, the plant I mentioned at the start that serious growers have kept to themselves since before supermarkets. Plant number 7. Eutrochium purpureum, Joe Pye weed, documented by the USDA PLANTS Database and NC State Extension as a confirmed monarch and swallowtail attractor. This $8 plant produces the single largest flat-topped panicle of any perennial on this list, wide enough to accommodate a full monarch wingspan open during feeding without a single wing adjustment. By year 3 it stands 6 feet tall and becomes the permanent wildlife anchor every border on this list is built around. Zones 4 through 9, full sun to part shade, average to moist soil. The flat-topped panicle architecture of Eutrochium purpureum is documented by NC State Extension as the specific landing geometry that accommodates full monarch wingspan. Wider than any other perennial on this list and physically impossible to replicate with tubular or cone-shaped blooms. This $8 plant becomes a 6-foot border anchor by year 3-1. June purchase compounding into a permanent documented migration station that widens and strengthens every season. Most American growers cut Eutrochium to the ground in early spring before new growth appears, destroying the hollow stems that cavity-nesting native bees overwintered inside all winter. That single spring mistake eliminates an entire generation of native pollinators that would have worked every bloom on this list from June through frost. Leave the stems standing through March, and this $8 plant shelters an entire native bee generation that emerges to work every bloom in your border come June. Now, earlier at the start of this video, I mentioned an Ohio homeowner who calculated exactly what 11 years of annuals actually cost. This is that story. Earlier at the start of this video, I mentioned a homeowner in Ohio. This is that story. Cease. A woman in Zone 6, Ohio, sat down one February and calculated 11 years of $180 spring annual purchases, $1,980 spent, 0 hummingbird visits recorded, and replaced the entire border that June for $195 one time using 5 plants from this list, documented by USDA as confirmed native hummingbird attractors across Zone 6. Daily hummingbird visits began within the first season, a $195 one-time investment, returning what $1,980 across 11 years, never once delivered. This next plant is not in any catalog, not on any nursery shelf. It exists on this list because you stayed long enough to deserve it. And what comes next is the reason serious growers in their 50s and 60s who understand compounding investment never tell their neighbors which plants they ordered first. Plant number 8. Salvia May Night, named Perennial Plant Association Plant of the Year. In 1997, this $10 perennial produces the deepest cobalt, violet flower spikes of any salvia in American cultivation and draws hummingbirds into documented territorial feeding behavior within days of first bloom opening. It reblooms twice, if cut back after each flush, delivering 3 separate hummingbird feeding events from a single $10 June purchase. Zones 4 through 8, full sun, well-drained soil. The deep violet frequency of Salvia May Night sits at the peak of the hummingbird visible spectrum, the specific wavelength that triggers immediate territorial defense behavior. Documented in native plant cultivation as one of the strongest single-plant hummingbird responses in American gardens. This $10 plant delivers 3 separate bloom flushes per season, with 2 simple cutbacks, tripling the hummingbird feeding events from one June purchase. Most American growers allow Salvia May Night to run to seed after first bloom, believing the season is finished, losing 2 full rebloom cycles and 6 additional weeks of documented hummingbird feeding. That one mid-June decision costs nothing to avoid and destroys the majority of what this plant was already set to deliver. Cut it back twice, and this $10 plant delivers 3 hummingbird feeding seasons inside a single summer. Every year it returns. Plant 9 feeds painted lady butterflies across the entire continental range. But plant 10 is the only perennial on this list that triggers documented hummingbird territorial defense behavior within days of establishment. And that difference matters enormously. Plant number 9, Achillea terracotta yarrow. While annuals wilt in July heat, this $8 perennial spreads into a wide drought-proof mat of terracotta, orange flat-topped clusters that painted lady butterflies feed across the entire continental range from Zone 3 through Zone 9. Its flat cluster architecture is the specific landing geometry that painted ladies require, and the warm terracotta frequency draws them from distances cool-toned blooms in the same border never reach. Zones 3 through 9, full sun dry to average well-drained soil, done. Achillea terracotta produces flat-topped clusters at the exact height and width that painted lady butterflies use as feeding platforms across their entire continental migration range, a documented landing architecture no tubular or pendant bloom replicates. This $8 plant spreads by runners into a permanent expanding drought-proof mat one June purchase, building a terracotta orange carpet that widens every season at 0 cost. Most American growers plant Achillea in rich amended border soil, believing fertility produces better blooms. Rich soil drives excessive leafy growth that collapses the stems and eliminates the flat cluster architecture butterflies depend on entirely. That soil mistake costs 1 full butterfly season, and the painted lady traffic this plant was already set to deliver without a single additional input. Plant lean, dry soil, and this $8 mat spreads wider every season, feeding painted ladies without a single dollar more spent. Plant 10 is the only perennial on this list that triggers documented hummingbird territorial defense behavior within days of establishment, a completely different wildlife response from anything terracotta yarrow produces, and one that changes how your entire border performs from the moment it opens. Plant number 10, Nepeta sibirica souvenir d'André Chaudron. This is not the compact catmint sold at every garden center. This is a tall, open-form Siberian catmint that triggers documented hummingbird territorial defense behavior within days of first bloom, a response intensity that standard Nepeta varieties simply do not produce. Its lavender, blue spikes stand 18 inches above the border and draw hummingbirds into active patrol feeding that continues every morning from June through September. Zones 3 through 8. Full sun, well-drained average soil. The lavender, blue frequency of Nepeta sibirica sits at the precise wavelength that activates hummingbird territorial instinct. Native plant cultivation records show the defense patrol response triggers within the first week of bloom opening, earlier than any other perennial on this list. This $10 plant reblooms reliably after a single mid-season cutback, delivering 2 full territorial hummingbird feeding periods from one June purchase. Most American growers plant compact Nepeta fasani, believing all catmints produce the same hummingbird response. The compact form never triggers territorial defense behavior and draws a fraction of the feeding traffic Siberica produces. That variety substitution costs the strongest single hummingbird response available in any Zone 3 through 8 border. Cut it back once, and this $10 plant runs 2 full territorial hummingbird feeding seasons inside a single summer. Every year it returns. Plant 11 works a completely different color register, a deep crimson-orange poker spike that hummingbirds locate from across the yard and return to every morning from July through the first frost. Have you ever grown a perennial that triggered hummingbird territorial behavior? Not once, but every single morning for an entire season? Drop it below. Plant number 11, Persicaria amplexicaulis orange field. While every annual in your border fades in July heat, this $10 perennial launches dense crimson, orange poker spikes that hummingbirds locate from across the yard and return to feed every single morning from July, straight through the first frost. Its continuous bloom period outlasts every other perennial on this list. 4 full months of documented daily hummingbird feeding from a single one-time June purchase. Zones 4 through 9, full sun to part shade, average to moist soil. Persicaria amplexicaulis produces crimson, orange florets continuously along elongating spikes, a bloom mechanism that extends active hummingbird feeding 4 full months without deadheading, staking, or any additional input after June planting. This $10 plant expands into a wide clump by year 2 and divides permanently every 3 years, one purchase compounding into multiple border anchors at 0 additional cost. Most American growers position Persicaria at the back border, believing its bold foliage needs hiding front and mid-border placement, doubles the visible hummingbird feeding activity, and the daily wildlife return the plant delivers. That placement mistake costs 4 months of visible morning hummingbird feeding every single season it goes uncorrected. Position it mid-border, and this $10 plant delivers 4 months of visible morning hummingbird feeding without a single additional input. Plant 12 works a completely different seasonal register, a native blue star that Missouri Botanical Garden documents as one of the finest 4-season American garden plants with wildlife value that begins in June and compounds through every season it returns. Plant number 12, Amsonia tabernamentana blue star, documented by the USDA PLANTS Database and Missouri Botanical Garden as a confirmed Native American species. This $8 perennial delivers pale steel, blue star flowers for native bees in June, and then transforms into the most brilliant golden yellow autumn foliage of any perennial on this entire list. 2 completely separate seasons of documented wildlife and visual value from a single one-time purchase. Zones 3 through 9, full sun to part shade, average well-drained soil. Missouri Botanical Garden documents Amsonia tabernamentana as one of the finest 4-season American garden plants. Its June steel, blue bloom supports specialist native bees that commercial hybrid perennials do not attract, and its autumn foliage transformation produces a golden display that no annual ever replicates. This $8 plant forms a permanent long-lived clump that never requires division. A one-time June investment delivering documented wildlife value across every season for 20 years or more. Most American growers cut Amsonia foliage to the ground in late summer believing the season is finished. Removing the foliage before the golden autumn transformation eliminates the most visually valuable 4 weeks this plant delivers every year. That single late summer cut costs the entire autumn display permanently, and every season it goes uncorrected. Leave the foliage standing through October, and this $8 plant delivers the most brilliant golden autumn display of any perennial in your border at 0 additional cost. Plant 13 is the one I mentioned at the very start of this video. The bottle brush architecture that feeds only long-tongued pollinators through a natural selection mechanism. Serious growers kept to themselves and their closest neighbors since before supermarkets existed. Plant number 13, Sangavai zerba obtusa Japanese burnet. The pendulous pink bottle brush spikes on this $10 plant physically filter short-tongued generalists and create a dedicated feeding corridor for the specialist native bees. Serious growers spend years trying to attract. It divides permanently every 3 years. One June purchase compounding into an expanding border presence indefinitely. Zones 4 through 8. Part shade to full sun. Average to moist soil. The A-tie sit. The bottle brush architecture of Sanguizorba obtusa is a documented natural pollinator selection mechanism. The pendulous spike geometry requires long-tongued specialist access, creating a feeding corridor that short-tongued generalists physically cannot enter. This $10 plant divides permanently every 3 years. One June purchase expanding into multiple clumps across the border at zero additional cost, compounding documented specialist pollinator value every division cycle. Most American growers plant Sanguizorba in dry sunny borders, alongside drought-tolerant perennials. Dry sunny conditions cause the foliage to collapse by midsummer, eliminating the architectural spike display entirely before peak bloom. That placement mistake cost the entire pollinator selection function this plant was set to deliver from the moment it opened. Plant it in part shade with consistent moisture, and this $10 plant delivers a specialist pollinator corridor that divides and expands permanently without another dollar spent. Plant 14 is documented by the RHS as attracting 29 separate butterfly species, the single highest butterfly diversity attractor on this entire list. And that number is not a claim, it is a recorded count. Plant number 14, Succisa pratensis devil's bit scabious. The RHS has documented this $10 perennial as attracting 29 separate butterfly species, the single highest butterfly diversity count of any plant on this entire list. And that figure represents a recorded species count, not a marketing claim. Its deep blue, violet pincushion heads bloom from late summer through October, extending the butterfly feeding season weeks past every other perennial here. Zones 4 through 8, full sun to part shade, average to moist soil. The RHS documented 29 butterfly species visiting Succisa pratensis, a recorded diversity count that no other perennial on this list approaches, and that the entire annual industry combined cannot replicate in a single border season. This $10 plant blooms from late summer through October, extending documented butterfly diversity feeding 6 weeks past the point where every other perennial here has finished. Most American growers overlook Succisa entirely because the common name devil's bit scabious signals nothing about its documented wildlife value. That name recognition gap is the exact reason serious growers who know this plant have a butterfly border and their neighbors do not. Missing Succisa from a June planting costs 29 documented butterfly species every single season. It is absent from the border. Added to a part shade moist border, and this $10 plant delivers documented 29 species butterfly diversity through October without a single additional input. Plant 15 works a completely different seasonal register, a native goldenrod that USDA documents as supporting over 100 pollinator species, and that explodes into a fireworks cascade of golden bloom, just as every annual in your border has already surrendered. Plant number 15, Solidago rugosa fireworks, goldenrod, while every annual in your June border has surrendered by September. This $10 native explodes into a cascading fireworks spray of golden bloom that USDA documents as supporting over 100 separate pollinator species, the broadest single plant pollinator support count on this entire list. Its arching branch form puts it in a completely different visual and wildlife category from every stiff upright goldenrod the garden center sells. Zones 4 through 9, full sun average to dry soil. USDA documents Solidago rugosa as supporting over 100 pollinator species, a breadth of wildlife support that no annual and no other perennial on this list individually matches across a single late-season bloom period. This $10 plant self seeds into a permanent expanding colony. One June purchase, building a cascading golden pollinator station that widens every season at zero cost. Most American growers avoid all goldenrod believing it causes hay fever. Goldenrod pollen is insect, carried and too heavy to become airborne, a documented botanical fact that ragweed's wind, dispersed pollen has incorrectly absorbed for decades. That misidentification costs 100 documented pollinator species every autumn the plant is absent from the border. Let it self-seed, and this $10 plant builds a 100 pollinator species station that expands permanently without another dollar spent. Plant 16 carries a credential no other perennial on this list, holds a federally recovered species status confirmed by the USDA, making it the rarest echinacea in American horticulture and a conversation-stopping garden credential in any zone 4 through 8 border. Did you know goldenrod never causes hay fever? Be completely honest in the comments. Plant number 16. Echinacea tennescensis Tennessee coneflower, confirmed by the USDA as a federally recovered species. This $10 plant is the rarest echinacea in American horticulture, and the only one whose recovery from endangered status is documented as supported by butterfly and native bee cultivation in American gardens. Its upswept pink, magenta ray petals and orange, tipped central cone are a visual credential no other coneflower in any garden center carries. Zones 4 through 8, full sun, well, drained average to dry soil. USDA confirms Echinacea tennescensis as a federally recovered species whose documented butterfly and native bee support in cultivated American gardens contributed directly to its conservation recovery. A garden credential that no hybrid coneflower in any catalog can claim. This $10 plant supports a documented butterfly and bee recovery effort. Every established clump in an American garden is a confirmed contribution to a federal species recovery program. Most American growers divide Echinacea tennescensis before year 4, believing early division accelerates establishment, premature division resets the bloom clock entirely, and pushes the plant back to first-year performance. That impatience costs 2 full growing seasons, and the mature clump presence this plant was already building toward. Let it reach year 4 undivided, and this $10 plant delivers a federally documented conservation credential alongside daily butterfly and bee feeding permanently. Plant 17 works the cool end of the color register, a sulfur yellow yarrow that Missouri Botanical Garden documents as one of the longest-lived drought-proof perennials available across zones 3 through 8, and compounds its value every single season it returns. Plant number 17. Achillea moonshine yarrow. While annuals collapse in summer drought, this $8 perennial spreads a wide silver-gray mat of pale sulfur, yellow flat clusters that Missouri Botanical Garden documents as one of the longest-lived drought-proof perennials available across zones 3 through 8, returning larger and more floriferous every single season without irrigation, division, or any additional cost. Its silver-gray ferny foliage is the most drought-adapted leaf structure of any perennial on this list. Zones 3 through 8, full sun, dry to average well, drained soil. Missouri Botanical Garden documents Achillea moonshine as one of the finest long-lived drought-proof perennials in American cultivation. The silver-gray leaf structure reflects solar radiation and reduces moisture loss at a rate that green-leaved perennials in the same border cannot approach. This $8 plant spreads by runners into a permanent expanding mat. One June purchase building a drought-proof pollinator carpet that widens every season without cost or irrigation. Most American growers plant Achillea moonshine in rich amended border soil, believing fertility improves performance. Rich soil drives excessive leafy growth that collapses the stems and destroys the flat cluster architecture that native bees depend on entirely. That soil mistake costs the entire pollinator function this plant delivers every season it goes uncorrected. Plant it in lean, dry soil, and this $8 mat spreads wider every season, feeding native bees without irrigation or a single additional dollar spent. Plant 18 closes this list with the plant that USDA Native Plant Database ranks as one of its top hummingbird attractors, a wine red and white native with documented daily morning feeding visits that begin the first season and compound every year after. Plant number 18, Penstemon digitalis husker red, ranked by the USDA Native Plant Database as a top hummingbird attractor in American cultivation. This $10 native produces white tubular flowers rising above the most dramatically wine, red foliage of any perennial on this list, a visual contrast that draws hummingbirds into documented daily morning feeding visits from the very first season it establishes. Its tubular flower architecture is the exact fit for the ruby-throated hummingbird bill, a feeding match no flat, cluster or open-faced bloom replicates, zones 3 through 8, full sun to part shade, average well-drained soil. The USDA Native Plant Database ranks Penstemon digitalis among the top documented hummingbird attractors. In American native plant cultivation, the tubular corolla diameter matches the ruby-throated hummingbird bill geometry at a precision that triggers daily territorial feeding behavior from first bloom opening. This $10 plant seeds reliably into a permanent expanding colony. One June purchase building a wine, red and white hummingbird feeding station that widens every season at zero cost. Most American growers deadhead penstem and husker red immediately after bloom, believing seed heads are untidy. Removing every seed head eliminates the self-seeding that builds the expanding colony and the goldfinch feeding that runs through January. That single deadheading habit cost the entire compounding wildlife. Return this plant was already building without intervention. Leave the seed head standing, and this $10 plant self-seeds into a wine-red hummingbird feeding colony that compounds permanently every morning without another dollar spent. You have all 18 plants now. And before the framework, 3 things about this June perennial investment that almost no source ever puts in one place, and they change how you think about every border decision going forward. 3 things about this June investment that almost no source puts in one place. Liatris pycnostakia is confirmed by the USDA as a central flyway monarch migration fuel stop. Every established colony in a Zone 3 through 9 border is a documented refueling station on a continental wildlife corridor worth more than any annual display. Successa pratensis holds the RHS documented record of 29 butterfly species attracted to a single plant, the highest species diversity count on this list, blooming through October, when every other butterfly attractor here has already finished. Echinacea tennescensis is the only plant on this list confirmed by the USDA as a federally recovered species. Every established clump in an American garden is a documented contribution to a federal conservation recovery program, a credential that no annual purchase in any June garden center transaction has ever supported or delivered. Under $240 one-time 18 plants, Zones 3 through 9 hummingbird and butterfly visits documented from the first season, compounding every morning for the next 20 years without a single additional dollar. Here is exactly where to begin, based on your zone right now. Here is exactly where to begin. Zone to plants to dollar. Zones 3 through 7 start with Agastache, Sunset, Liatris, Pycnostacia, and Salvia mainite under $30, a documented hummingbird and monarch foundation that establishes across every northern and Central American growing zone and delivers wildlife return from the first season without a single additional purchase. Zones 8 through 9 add Vernonia fasciculata, Eutrochium purpureum, and Persicaria amplexicalis to that foundation, documented monarch and hummingbird attractors that peak across the warmest American growing zones and deliver their strongest wildlife return in the late summer window that Zone 3 through 7 borders finish before. Miss this June window, and your first full 20-year morning investment season waits 12 months. You just received zone-accurate, dollar-grounded, research-based plant knowledge that calculates a $240 one-time June investment against 20 years of documented daily hummingbird and butterfly return. The kind of math most channels never run for you. If this video changed how you think about what you spent on annuals last spring, hit like now. Drop your state and zone in the comments right now and tell me how much you spent on annuals last spring. I read every one. Subscribe to Planter Lab, the investment your great-grandmother made in her yard, paid back every June morning for the rest of her life.